Hello everybody and welcome back. This episode we're going to focus on some of the more essentials to the interior rather than moving on to the furniture and things like I said last time. We'll start focusing on the baseboards, light switches, doors, and I guess actual lights as well. And so I guess we'll start with the baseboards and we'll do that down here. So we'll just get it right into the corner. Yeah, so I guess we will do them as part of the first floor component. And so now we pretty much just need to design what sort of baseboard we want. We'll say 4 inches and see what that looks like. Now our door frames will stay like this. We're not going to change these at all, but these are 3 inches. And I was thinking maybe we could do 3 inches and then 1 inch, or maybe we'll do another 1/2 inch. Make these a little bit higher. Let's just see what this looks like. I kind of like that look. So what we'll do is we will make these a separate piece, but inside of the first floor component. So we'll come over here and draw the height out. So this will be, we'll make this maybe a 1/2 inch thick, and then down to this line right there, and then this will come out, it's another 1/4 inch. Okay, so go down to the floor, and then we have this piece. And then we can use this piece using the follow me tool. We can have this essentially wrap around the room. But before we do that, we're going to put in the door frames. And before we put in the door frames, we need to figure out the door height. I think these were 7 feet. And so I guess we'll probably reduce this to 6'8", at least for the interior doors. And now we might be able to, I guess this one is 7 feet as well. And maybe we'll keep that the same, just because it is sort of an exterior door, or at least going out into the garage. Alright, and so now we'll go back in and draw in all of our door frame guides. This one's pretty tight to the wall, but I think it should fit. There we go. And we will draw these right to the floor because the baseboards won't really wrap around the doors themselves. And I think, let's just go back over here and see how far this came out. That was a 1/2 inch. So we'll say 0.5. Pull this one out, 0.5. And we'll do the frames on the insides of these rooms as well. This one is a bathroom, and I think the other one's just like a storage closet. So now we're getting into the storage room, and obviously the stairs kind of take up a lot of this space. So what we'll actually do is go into these stairs and change the, I guess we'll make the ceiling height probably 8 feet in here. And just hollow out the underside of the stairs a little bit so that we can make kind of like a, I guess, a storage closet, storage room. And push this in, say 1 foot. We'll have to hide this one. And then we can kind of see what the stairs look like here. Essentially just try to draw a line down that matches the angle of the stairs. And then push that across. We can erase all this bottom stuff. And I think what we'll do is draw a line down at some point here, just to sort of square off this closet. So now we can unhide the first floor component. We'll say last. There we go. So now we can see under the stairs. So it's a bit more like a traditional under the stairs closet space. And we can get back to doing our door frames. And this is a little bit less than 3 inches on this side, but that's fine. We'll just we'll leave it like that. Pull this out, 0.5. Alright, so that's all the downstairs door frames, and now we can move back to doing our baseboards. And so what we'll do is we'll take this piece here, and I guess we'll group it. We'll say baseboards first floor, and we'll tuck this right into the corner there. So now what we'll do is we'll duplicate the baseboard piece, or component, bring it over here. We'll say make unique on this one, and just go back into this one, and then draw a line along the section of floor we want to have the baseboard go. And then we can just go back to here with our follow me tool and just basically just drag it along the stretch of floor that we drew a line for. And we can triple click all of this and reverse our faces. And there we go, that's the baseboard done. And now I'm wondering if the baseboard should essentially be flush to the 1/2 inch piece, or if the door frame should come out another 1/4 inch just to cover off the baseboard. And I guess that's what we'll do. We'll pull this out another 1/4 inch all around, just to make the baseboard sort of set in a little bit better, I think. So now we can just essentially take this component around and duplicating it so that we have another one to use. We'll reverse this, and for this one specifically, you can basically just pull it along because there's nothing for it to wrap, so we don't need to draw anything in. And just keep doing this. And somebody pointed out as well on the previous video that you can make groups rather than just making unique components, which is really no difference, except that you just don't have to go through the process of hitting make unique all the time. So if we were to do that, we could just go up to edit and make group. And I guess by default it isn't assigned a shortcut, but you can just say make a group, and then essentially you just don't need to hit the make unique key. But for instances where you would like components to mirror the other, then you'll have to do the component button. So I guess it's really just a matter of preference. But in this case, where we need to use essentially the same component over and over again, it is actually fairly useful. So thank you very much for pointing that out. Alright, so that's all of the baseboards done. And I guess actually we also have this window frame to do, and this will also mirror the same essential dimensions as the door frames did. So we'll just take our guides, draw it 3 inches, and I guess we'll also make that 3/4 of an inch like the door frames. And I think that looks fine, so we'll leave that the way it is. And this will be our bathroom at some point, but for now we're going to move on to doing, I guess, thickening up the door frames a little bit. Just so they're not flush all the way through like this. We'll probably pull them in maybe an inch either side here, see what that looks like. And I think this is fine. So what we'll do, we'll just drag our rectangles around these, and then we'll just pull these out maybe 1/4 of an inch. Not too far, just enough to sort of offset them a little bit. We just look at our dimension here, or our size. It's 2'4". So that's essentially 28 inches, and I think that's a pretty good size for an interior door. And so that's the garage door frame done, as well as the window frame for the interior of the front window. And I guess we can move on to doing some of the doors. And I think we'll do something just relatively simple for these doors on the interior. So we'll leave the first floor component and just start drawing these in separately. I'll group that, and we'll call it interior door. And so we'll hide the first floor here and just move into the door component. We can pull this across, say, 1.5 inches, and then we'll just start pushing this in. I guess we'll say not too much, but we'll say 1/8 of an inch all the way around. We'll bring this up 1/4 of an inch on the bottom. And so now we'll take the face of our door, take our offset tool, and bring it in 4 inches. We'll see what that looks like. I think that looks fine. And we'll drag up the base, say another 3 inches, and we'll find the center of this inner box and drag this up 2 inches either side. It might need to be a bit more than that, yeah. Maybe we'll say another inch, make this 6 inches. There we go. We'll see what this looks like. Push this in 1/4 of an inch. And then what we'll do is we'll control push this piece to the other side of the door. And while it's hollowed there, we'll reverse these faces. Then we'll fill it back in and then push it in 1/4 of an inch. So we can easily mirror the other side of the door. And we'll do the same for the bottom piece. And if we just sort of compare it to the existing door that's there, just pull up a guide and see sort of where the center of this is, about 3 feet. So we can pull a guide up from here, we'll say 3 feet. And I think what we'll do is actually offset this middle piece, because we'll sort of want to center the handle somewhere along one of these, and bring it down a couple inches, say 4.5 inches, and just see where that puts the cross member piece. Just so we can sort of center the door handle amongst this bit. And then we'll pull the back down to match the front. So we'll just pull it down and then inference it on this side. So now we can just go edit, unhide last, and we can sort of get a look at what we have. So now the more complicated bit is effectively doing the door hinge. We just kind of wanted to see the spacing that we have around the door here, and I think it looks pretty good. So we'll fit the hinge in there somewhere, except what we want to do is we'll hide the first floor component again, And we'll go back and make our hinge. So we'll want to make the hinge in 2 different pieces. So we'll make it separate from everything else. We'll just sort of eyeball the hinge here first. And we'll say 3 inches down. And then we'll bring it down 1 inch this way. And pull that over. And so now essentially we need to find sort of 3 equal parts. So what we'll do is our scaling guide again. There we go. Now we can just scale these down. And so we have our 3 equal parts, but I think these sort of middle lines are too close together. So what we'll do, we'll just select all of those, and holding the control key, we can scale these out a little bit. And I think that looks a bit better. So we can delete these end ones, and then drag in another guide halfway. And now what we kind of want is maybe 3/8, so say 0.18 of an inch in here. And so now we have that all filled in. We can pull this out, this main piece out a 1/16 of an inch. And then with these screw faces, we can pull these out a 32nd of an inch, which is halfway between there. We can delete our guides, reverse these faces again. We can take the offset tool, bring that in a 1/16 of an inch, maybe less than that. We'll say 32nd of an inch again. Then we can pull these middle bits flush back to the edge, and then grab the lower line and pull that out, and that'll put a little taper on it for us. And we can go in and we can just put our Phillips head on these. And if you wanted to, you could just use these screw heads from the garage door that we made in a previous part. But if you haven't seen that part, we can go ahead and make them again. And we'll just say 1/32 top and bottom here. And then we'll just drag out some rectangles, delete our guides, and erase all these center bits. And we'll just draw a cross in on the other 2 screws so that we can copy this other one down. And because the measurements are fairly small, SketchUp doesn't usually agree with sort of snapping to previous measurements or anything like that. So we'll kind of have to help it a little bit. And we'll just draw a little X back in here. And then what we'll do is we'll copy it from the center point with the control key. And then we can just place it, pull it down to there. And then we can just erase all these extra lines again. Push it in a 1/16. There we go. So we can triple click this, make it into a component. We'll say interior door hinge base. So now essentially with the door hinge, one side will have 3 pieces and the other side will have 2. So we basically need to figure out a way to scale that, and we'll just do our scaling trick again. So we'll say 1/8. We'll just drag these out 1/8 until we have 5 parts. Then scale this up to the top. And we'll just drag out an extra little piece here so we can sort of figure out how big the hinge rod, I suppose you could call it, will be. So we'll say 1/8 the radius here, and just erase the rest of this stuff. And we'll pull this out just a little bit past where it is, so it's not essentially flush with the door. Say 1/16. And then we can push this in basically to meet it a little bit closer. Say 1/32 there. And then we can push this down to the first guide point. I think we'll actually make it a little bit bigger. So we'll move it back out again and scale it like this. We'll say maybe 1/12. And essentially at this point it's a little bit bigger than 1/4 of an inch. If we just say 0.25, that's 1/4 of an inch there. And I think again we'll still want to make it a bit bigger than that. So we'll scale it out. And if we just hold the shift key while we pull this out, pull it to about 110 there. And I think that's looking a bit more reasonably sized. If we just drag our guide out again, we'll see what 1/4 of an inch is. And yeah, it's about 1/16 past that. I think that's fine. So then what we'll want to do is essentially just control pull these to each of these individual sections. And then pull in sort of an offset, we'll say 1/16. So then we'll push this all the way down to this first point. Then we'll smooth out these lines, draw the base back in again, and then push it down to the second point. And we'll essentially keep doing this. We'll just delete our guides here and reverse these faces and push it all the way through the bottom. And we really don't need to worry about these lines in particular here. because you're not going to see them. And so now what we'll do is duplicate this hinge piece. I'll say make unique on this one. And then we can essentially just go in and draw a line across here and get rid of the odd pieces. So then we can just keep the middle pieces. Clean this up a bit. First these faces and push this in. And we'll pull the screw holes out 30 seconds just so they're not actually touching the back of the hinge here, because they are a little too far in. So now that we have that hinge, and now essentially what we can do is just get rid of these pieces on this hinge. And so now on one of these, we're going to have to offset it a little bit. I think the easiest thing we can do is strip off a little edge here, and we'll push this piece down, essentially disconnecting the loops from the main piece. So we can just triple click these sections, bring these out a 1/16 of an inch. So then we can bring this edge back out to where it was. We'll just inference it with the edge here. And then we'll drag out another line and bring this all the way to the bottom so that we can find where the end intersects with the hinge base and just draw some connecting lines in between the two. And it may not be an ideal intersection, but we can draw in the necessary faces. And so that will finish the hinge. So now we can just drag this in there. And all the holes should now line up. Nothing should be inside one another. So now we can just go into this top section here, leave the hinge component, and paste this back in. Find where it lines up, right there. And we can make a new component. We'll say interior door hinge pin. And we can pull the top up 1/16, draw a line across the inside base here, pull this down to the bottom, like that, maybe just a little bit further. We'll say a 1/64 of an inch further. Now we can draw a line across the top and erase this bit. Turn off our X-ray. There we go. And so that is the hinge for the door. So now what we can do is essentially find 3 parts, and we can bring the first hinge. We'll say the first hinge is a foot off the floor. We'll bring this hinge down a foot, and then we'll just put the third hinge right in the center of the door. So now we'll copy all of these components, drag it down to essentially the center here. And I guess maybe we'll bring this up 3 inches again, because we'll say, well, maybe 2 inches. So it's effectively 10 inches now. We'll delete our guides, bring this group up another inch. And we'll actually delete the middle hinge, because I don't think we need 3 hinges for an interior door. Might be a little bit overkill. So essentially what we need to do now is take the interior hinge, the door, and the hinge down here, and we'll group it. And we can say interior door hinged. And then essentially the base hinges on this side of the door will be connected. And so if we ever want to basically swing the door open, we can try and find the center of the pin there, and it will effectively look accurate. And so now what we need to do, we'll go back and unhide our first floor component. And so now we can check our hinges. You can see that they fit in the gap that's there. And we also now need to do our doorknob for these. But what we'll also do, just copy all of this stuff over, bring this over to here. Just gonna fill this door gap. And it looks like this door is actually a bit bigger than the other one. So we'll just go into this, click on the door. We'll say make unique on the door. It's already unique. We can just pull this over now to here. And we want to keep the frame about 4 inches. So I'll just say 4 inches there. So that's our 2 interior doors done. And I think we'll do the garage door next time. But before we wrap up here, we will do the door knob. And we can, I think, use this door handle, seeing as it's sort of a theme throughout the house now, or at least throughout the first floor. We will bring it over to here, paste it, and this can sort of serve as our starting point. I'll make sure that we have unique on this, so we can scale it down a little bit. Bring this bottom dowel up, get rid of this bottom support, and rotate it. We'll rotate it to there. And scale this down just so it's a bit more handle sized, or at least door handle, interior door handle. Just trying to get sort of an edge on it. Let's just see how long this is. It's about 6 inches long. I'm not sure we need a handle that long. Maybe a bit shorter. It's about 4 or 5 inches. It's probably a bit more reasonable. And so now we can sort of make the base for this. And so I guess what we'll do, we'll make a circle, say about maybe an inch. We'll just see what a 2-inch circle is like. Maybe 1.25. And then we can group it. We'll say interior door handle base. Bring this out 1/4 of an inch. And just put a slight taper on it. Say about there. And then we can push this back, yeah, maybe there. And then try and find the center point to this. It's 6 inches, so we'll say bring it down 3. Then try and center this piece onto the base. And we can just go back in here if it's sort of difficult to follow. And just draw in sort of a cross shape. And then just try and center it onto here. There we go. Delete our guides, go into our base, and erase these cross pieces. And now try to find a place where the door handle should go. Maybe 3 inches in, about there. And we don't want to have it out that far, I don't think. So I think we'll push this in, grab this piece and pull it in. Maybe 1/2 of an inch. And we'll just see how much space we have here already. It's already about 1.5 inches, so I think that's pretty good. And then we can just group this again. We'll say interior door handle full. And copy this over to this one. And then essentially, I guess we can just drag these door handles into the inside. I'll try and keep it on the same axis. And then scale it -1. And then just drag it in on that red axis to the door itself. There we go. And so there we have our interior doors. And I mean, we only did 2, but we just go up to the second floor here. We can see, you know, there's several other doors that we can use that template for basically, and all those same components. There's a couple of closets up here as well, so we can figure out what we're doing when we get to them. But for now, that will go ahead and wrap this part up, I think. So we got some of the essentials done, some of the baseboards and frames and stuff. We didn't get to the lights, but we can look into doing those next time. So thank you everybody for watching. I'll see you next time.